Hi, everybody. It's Tracey West. Sorry for the slightly late start. Facebook apparently is changing how you go live, and it was a little confusing for a second, but here I am. So hopefully you can all see me and hear me. I have turned up the internal microphone, and hopefully there won't be issues with that today. Thank you for joining me. The reason why we are here is because I am reading out loud from Dragon Masters number 14, Land of the Spring Dragon. And I'm very glad that Scholastic has given me permission to read this book to you out loud. Yesterday, I read chapters 1 through 3, and you can find that video on my Facebook page, Author Tracey West, if you want to catch up before you read this. I also want to let everybody know that um, if you have not read any Dragon Masters books yet, that's okay. This story is sort of a story by itself, and you'll be able to follow along, no problem. Where we left, before I say where we left off, I just also want to say that yesterday we had a visit from my cat Katie. I'll explain. She's a very old cat, and she naps on a very high shelf in my office. I don't even know how she's getting up there these days. But so yesterday she heard me talking to you and woke up from her nap, and I had to sort of get her off a shelf. So anyway, it's a live reading, so who knows what will happen. She's sleeping right now, but I don't really want to disturb her if I don't have to. So where we left off, there has been an earthquake in the land of Bracken, and Bracken is where Drake and the other main dragon masters live in King Roland's castle, and that's where they train their dragons. Griffith, the wizard, looked in the Dragonstone and saw that before that, Petra, the Dragon Master, found out that there is a spring dragon in the land of Inishbaba who has the ability to make plants grow, and they want the spring dragon to heal the kingdom of Bracken. So Griffith looks in the Dragonstone and finds the Dragon Master of the spring dragon, and her name is Breen, and she says only one brave dragon master and one dragon can come to the land of Inishbaba. And Drake and Worm transport there. And what we learned in chapter 3 is that Breen had told them that in order for the dragon to help them, Drake has to undergo a challenge, and he can't bring Worm with him. And now we're going to start chapter 4. Drake has just said goodbye to Worm. And this chapter is called The Fairy Mound. Drake followed Breen to a small grassy hill. "This is a fairy mound," Breen explained. "Heard of that," Drake said. "My mother used to tell me stories about a secret fairy world. She said the fairy mound was a way to get in, but I never believed her stories were true." Breen smiled. "I bet you didn't believe in dragons either until you saw one." Drake smiled back. "No, I guess I didn't." "There are many different kinds of fairies in this secret world," Breen told him. She touched her dragonstone, and it glowed. Then a hole opened up in the hill. So there's the fairy mound, and you can see the hole has opened up in the hill, and Breen and Drake are walking through it. Breen stepped inside, and Drake followed her. They passed through a dark tunnel that opened up onto a field of flowers. This place looked almost like where they had just come from, but Drake could see that it was different. The sky was a strange shade of pink instead of bright blue. The colors on the flowers looked brighter. "Welcome to the fairy world. It is similar to our world, but quite a bit different," Breen said. "You'll see. Come this way." Drake followed Breen down a path through the meadow. Breen stopped at the start of a forest. The path split into two different directions. And, I forgot to mention that this book is illustrated by Matt Loveridge, working in the style of Graham Howells, and I think Matt did an amazing job with this book, and you can see some of the cool, slightly strange flowers in the fairy world, and that cool little bug, and what's that peeking out from behind the tree? those all came from Matt's imagination. He's really great. Oh, and before we continue chapter 4, I do have to say that I have a lot of characters who sing in this book, and I've been deciding if I also need to sing as I read this book aloud, so things might get a little silly. Just bear with me. All right, now they're at the path in the woods. Which way do we go? Drake asked. Breen stepped to the side. That is up to you, Drake. Drake looked down the two paths. They both led into the woods. How do I know which path will lead us to Fallen? He wondered. Make up your mind, Drake, Breen said in a teasing voice. Hurry now, which will it be? Drake took a deep breath. Suddenly, he heard voices behind them. He turned to see a group of tiny men, none of them higher than Drake's knees, marching toward them. Each one had a white beard and wore a green shirt, green pants, and a pointy red cap. Here we go marching on and on, here and there and over and yon, they sang. Drake's eyes got wide. Who are they? He asked Breen. Those fairies are called redcaps, she explained. They like marching around a lot. The redcaps marched toward Drake and Breen without glancing at them. When they reached the fork in the road, they marched down the path on the right. Then they stopped. All at once, they turned to face Drake. Follow us, they cried. There are the tiny little redcaps. Chapter 5 is called The Redcaps. I think these fairies want to help me, Drake thought. He was about to make a step toward the redcaps when he stopped and turned to Breen. And I just froze, so I'll read that paragraph again. I think these fairies want to help me, Drake thought. He was about to take a step toward the redcaps when he stopped and turned to Breen. I guess you won't tell me if we should follow them or not, he said. No, I can't, Breen said. That would be cheating. But can you tell me something about them? Breen twirled her finger around one of her curls. I guess so. What do you want to know? Well, what kind of fairies are they? Drake asked. Are they nice? They mostly like to march around, she answered, but they also like to have fun with humans who visit here. Drake said. What kind of fun? You are asking too many questions, Drake, Breen said. Choose a path. The redcaps had already begun to march away. Wait for us, Drake called out. Wait for us, Drake called out. He ran to catch up to the fairies. Breen followed him. The redcaps marched into the woods. Here we go marching on, here and there and over and yon, they repeated. They marched and marched. Drake kept expecting to reach the end of the woods, but they never did. I think we're going in circles, he said. You are right, Breen agreed. She pointed to a tree with a twisted trunk. We have passed by this tree 3 times. Ooh, here they are lost in the woods. Here we go marching, yon and yon, here and there and over and yon, sang the redcaps. Drake frowned. I guess we shouldn't have followed them, he said. Let's go back to the other path. Drake tried to turn around, but he couldn't. His body swung forward and kept marching behind the redcaps. His legs were moving all on their own. Hey, Drake yelled. Are the redcaps using some kind of fairy magic, he wondered? Drake couldn't slow down or change direction. Behind him, Breen was marching too. They couldn't stop. Drake just is marching and marching. Drake made his legs move faster. He caught up to the redcap at the end of the line and tapped him on the shoulder. Excuse me, he said, but we would like to stop following you now, please. We need to find Fallen and save my kingdom. The redcaps stopped marching. They all turned around and looked at Drake. But you must keep following us, said one. We are having too much fun, said the other. Yes, said a third. Going round and round is such a good time. I'm sorry, but I don't have time for games, Drake said. My kingdom needs help. Sorry, one of them said. We can't let you go. You have to let us go sometime, Drake said. How long do you want to keep playing for anyway? The red caps all answered him at once, "Forever!" And there are the red caps, and they want Drake to march forever and ever. Will Drake be able to stop marching? Let's see, because we have one more chapter to read today, chapter 6. And chapter 6 is called A Trick. And that might give you a clue as to how Drake gets away from the redcaps. The fairies smiled up at Drake. "You want me to march with you forever?" Drake said. "You can't make me do that." His legs were still moving, marching in place. "Yes, we can," one of the redcaps said cheerfully. Then they all spun around and began to march again. Drake's legs followed them. "Here we go marching on, here and there and over and yon." Drake looked at Breen. "You could have warned me about the redcaps," he said. "I did," she replied. "I told you they like to have fun." "This isn't fun," Drake complained. Breen shrugged. "It's fun for them." Drake marched along the path, thinking, "I need to find a way to get the redcaps to let us go. But all I know about them is that they like to have fun." Fun. Drake repeated the word in his mind. Back home, the younger kids always wanted to pull him away from the field to play games. Games like sticks and stones, hop and skip, hide and seek. Drake tapped the nearest redcap again, and the fairies all stopped marching. "What is it?" the redcap asked. "I know a game we can play," Drake said. "It's more fun than marching." The redcap's eyes lit up. "More fun? What is it called?" "It's called hide and seek," Drake replied. "You close your eyes and count. Breen and I will hide. When you open them, you have to find us." "Ooh, that does sound like fun," said the redcap. What happens after we find you?" "Then it's your turn to hide," Drake said. The redcaps all huddled together. They whispered to one another. Then they turned back to Drake. And let's see. Here's the redcaps deciding if they're going to play Drake's game. "We will play your game," they said at once. "Great," Drake said. "First, you have to release your magical hold on us so we can hide properly." "Done," the redcaps said, snapping their fingers. Drake tested it. He turned and took a step. "My idea is working," he thought. He turned back to the redcaps. "Perfect!" One of the redcaps nodded. "Now we close our eyes and count, right?" "Yes," Drake said. The redcaps all closed their eyes. One redcap opened his. "How high do we count?" 10,623, Drake replied. "Okay," the redcap said, and he closed his eyes. Then all the fairies began to count. 1, 2, 3. Drake motioned for Breen to follow him. They hurried back to the fork in the path, away from the redcaps. And there are the redcaps counting, and Drake and Breen are running away. So we are leaving Drake and Breen as they are running through the woods, but they still have not reached Fallen the Spring Dragon yet, and they still have a few more challenges to face before they find Fallen. So tomorrow we'll read chapters 7, 8, and 9 together and see what else happens. And before I go, I want to say that a few years ago, I wrote a series called Pixie Tricks about fairies who escape from the fairy world into the human world. And I wrote that series because I love to read stories, tales and myths about fairies. And there are a lot of fairy stories that take place in Ireland and England and Scotland. And that's where I first learned about the redcaps. And I didn't really put any redcaps in Pixie Tricks, but I was able to put them in this story. It's one of the reasons why I came up with the idea for this book, because I knew the spring dragon had to be from somewhere green, and a place like Ireland seemed like a great location. I'm frozen again. A place like Ireland seemed like a great location for the the spring dragon, and then I knew I wanted to put a lot of fairies in this book, and that's how I came up with the idea that um, Fall in the Dragon, Drake would have to maybe encounter some fairies and undergo some challenges before Fall in the Dragon would help them. So thank you all for joining me. It looks like my cat Katie is still slept through it today, so maybe we'll see her again tomorrow. I hope everyone is well. I'm looking forward to reading 3 more chapters tomorrow, so have a great day and happy reading.